Appreciate that, Marietta. Appreciate that. What's going on, everyone? We'll get started in a few, giving Fadia a few minutes to hop on. Appreciate everyone joining us today for another episode of Study Breaks for Honor Roll Clothing. All right, just Fadia just hit me. She said she'll be here in a minute, but yeah. So just while we're waiting for Fadia to hop on, again, Study Breaks is brought to you by Honor Roll Clothing. Yeah, we've been doing this since this whole quarantine situation has kind of popped off. We wanted to make sure that we were given space to be able to connect with, people who have been following the brand for some time. We've developed quite a bit of relationships over the years, and we just want to make sure that, we're able to kind of pull in some of the people who, we've had these friendships with to kind of share their experiences on how they've got into the place where they're at right now. Chris, what's going on? Fadia is an old friend of mine. We met back in Atlanta. This had to have been back in like 2011, right when Honor Roll first started developing. She was throwing these parties, which we'll kind of talk a little bit about later on, called Broken Bougie. And just her influence. Whose number is that? So that's Fadia's number. She asked us to post it. During the conversation, obviously, if you guys have questions, you could drop it in the comments. But then also moving forward, Fadia has been pretty intentional with giving herself access to people to be able to ask her questions, being able to kind of get some mentorship. So you'll be able to text that number directly, and you'll be able to connect with her post this conversation. All right, and I know Chris and Alex are going to kill me. Part of my sippage that happens here. Got to have my tea while we get this thing going. But yeah, man. So looking forward to this conversation. Like I said, there's been a lot that's transpired within the city of Atlanta over the years. We obviously have been a bed of culture. We've been a bed of culture. And this is one of the individuals, who has played been very instrumental in the development of the Atlanta culture that we kind of see today. So, it's going to be a great conversation again. Anyone who, who's been in Atlanta over the last 10 years, have attended the A3Cs or, again, like those Broken Bougie parties or, even bringing some of the prominent artists that we know right now, Shep, what's going on, bro, to the city. Was the first to bring the Cuddies and the Big Seans. Her story is very impressive. This is going to be a dope conversation. And Fadia right now is currently working for Instagram, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So even all of the versus events that we've seen. Leo, what's going on, bro? Hope to have you on here soon. But yeah, all the versus events that we've been seeing on IG, she's been the one who's been facilitating that on Instagrams. And so she just texted me and told me she was wrapping up a meeting with Swiss Beats. I'm sure they got some other versus joints that's coming up. I think the next one is going to be the, was it Jill Scott and Erykah Badu? So, that one should be pretty dope. But yeah, man, while we're waiting, feel free, check us out at honorrollshop.com. How's everyone been feeling so far? How's everyone's week been going? Get all your sips before she jumps on the. I'll get all my sips in. Fadia Kader is in the building.
Hello.
Fadia,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, this thing is like mad close on my face. Hold on.
Nah, it's all good, man. I spent actually like the first. I got on a couple minutes early to make sure that my lighting and my positioning was straight.
I'm like, I look crazy right now. Let me fix the situation.
Uh,
All right.
how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. How's LA treating you?
LA is good. It's a beautiful sunny day, which makes it so hard. I'm sitting in front of the window, so that's why I look extra lit right now. So
Yeah.
I'm not as like shiny and glowy. I promise it's just the reflection of the window. But no, it's a beautiful day outside. Obviously, it makes you want to be outside and go see the homies. But I'm grateful to just be in our house with our backyard and our dogs, and we're good.
What do you got going on for Cinco de Mayo? What are you cooking tonight? Because you are
You
a
know
legit
what?
chef on the low. So,
You're
and that's
legit
not
like
even on the
maybe
low. Like you out here with it.
you're like maybe the fourth or fifth person that has asked me today, like, so what's on the menu? I'm like, I made taco meat over the weekend, so we're just gonna make quesadillas and call it a day. That's
What's
it.
up.
But a lot of friends, like, brand partnership friends sent us like tequila and like micheladas. So I see a box I haven't opened. I've been working all day. But shout out to my homegirl Carly, who sent over a box of micheladas.
Okay.
They're my favorite. Mario's not that big of a fan, so I'm gonna dive into that.
Yo, before we get started, do you know of any? So I don't drink. I haven't drank in years. Are there any non-alcoholic tequila brands that you know of? There are wine companies that
Uh-huh.
yeah, there are wine companies that like have alcohol-free wine
Right.
or alcohol-free champagne, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any idea on any alcohol-free tequila, or is that not a thing?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not really a drinker either. Like, I'm a baby sipper. Like, I'm like sip, sip. Okay, third sip, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, the only thing I knew that was alcohol free was really beer. I didn't even know there was such a thing as like wine and alcohol free, like different liquors and stuff. That's pretty cool. I'm sure someone will come up with it.
It's dope, man. Okay, so let's go ahead and get jumping because I know you're a busy person and I definitely want to honor your time. Again, just want to welcome everyone who's here to Study Breaks. This is a live conversation that we do once a week. Over the years, we've been able to develop some great friendships with people within the fashion industry, music industry, and Fadia is one of those people who I met when I first started developing Honor Roll. And we've just been able over the years. I mean, obviously, started out with us doing some work with each other. You had A3C that you had going on. There was always a ton of events that you had, and you were always gracious to allow us to kind of be a part of this. And your name came up a number of times when me and Frank had our conversation. That was the first one we did, and we were just kind of going back down memory lane on how influential you were to the city. And so, obviously you're doing some amazing things right now at Instagram. And, I would love to just kind of take the time to have the conversation about how you got to that particular place.
Yeah. Oh man, do we have more than an hour? No, joking. I think the long story short here is that I was always priding myself on being an early adopter on social media platforms when, now digital media and digital marketing is a thing, but before it was called new media, right? So I really like just enjoyed hopping on like websites like MySpace and Facebook when they were first starting, or Twitter, or
Yeah.
Instagram. So I think like it was intuitive for me because I'm naturally a marketer and a creative strategist, and I enjoy emotional marketing more than anything else. Like I like tapping into the people.
Mm.
And I think social media does that really well, and it lends itself to be just that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it was just like a long road to this position in particular, but everything that I ever did in my life led me to this moment,
Yeah.
from managing artists, promoting them on, platforms like Facebook and MySpace back in the day, to,
Hmm.
you know, booking Drake with Jabari and Bame and Gerald on Shameless Plug, and
Hmm.
us convincing Drake's team to get on Twitter so he can see like this is where we're selling the tickets. Like people didn't
Yeah.
understand that at the time. Like all those moments led to me landing at Instagram, I would say.
So, all of what you were just talking about, I think, so in my own words, you're a person who is, and I don't want to say an expert because that sounds kind of cheesy, but I mean, you develop communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, when I first met you and first heard about you, it was, man, like you're doing these great things in the city where you're able to bring, like, let's start at Broken Bougie, for
Mm-hmm.
example, right?
Right.
Um, this is like the mid 2000s in
Yeah.
Atlanta.
2006, like before Broken Bougie, I had a party called The List that a lot of people didn't know about.
Okay.
It was, you could only get into it by calling a 1-800 number and leaving your name on the voicemail, and then we would send you the password to get into the party.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like super exclusive. I think the first one we ever did was with like Bombay Sapphire and Janelle Monáe and Wonderland, before it was like super Wonderland, you know. Um,
What was it that got you into even wanting to develop these kinds of communities? Because again, like in '06 in Atlanta, this is still aggressive crunk music. Like
yeah.
Visions is still going crazy. 112.
Mhm.
It was a very different Atlanta than the kind of parties that you were throwing. What was it that even got you into wanting to do these kinds of events and bring this specific group of people together?
It was, you know, because there was need. Like I always considered myself to be a dabbler, like a kid in the scene in Atlanta that, could go to Strokers on a Sunday, be at MJQ on a Wednesday, and, go to an art gallery charity function on a Friday, or go to
Hmm.
Visions on a Saturday. Friday. Saturday was like not the night. Friday
Yeah.
was. Um, so it was just like I didn't see myself in those spaces, a lot of those spaces, like Visions and Riviera and
Mm.
112, like I was there every freaking day. I
Yeah.
definitely didn't see myself at like Magic City and Strokers and like all the
Not even for the wings.
bruh, for the Wings for sure. Like definitely for the Wings. But I just realized like there was just like a missing like place for brown and black creatives to really congregate and let loose and not have to be like stereotyped into just like one genre of music. Like, I knew folks like me who liked to listen to Smashing Pumpkins just as much as they liked, D4L or Gucci Man or Tribe Called Quest or Miles, like it's just like who were some like-minded folks, and there wasn't a community for that. And that's how it all
Yeah.
started. It's like, how can we all be in one place where we can come together?
That's what's up. So like that's like one of those things that does it's not that doesn't come easy for people, right? Where like what a part of your upbringing like cultivated that ability to be able, like I said, to be a dabbler and to be able to
Mhm.
be in all these different spaces and still remain yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with just like, I'm Palestinian, I'm Middle Eastern. I grew up overseas. I was born in Kuwait. I grew up between Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and Atlanta, Georgia. So, like, I was always bouncing back and forth. I was bouncing back and forth between Jordan and the US.
Mm.
So, it's a culture clash, like, I didn't know what hip hop was. Like, I knew what hip hop was. My
Yeah.
introduction to like hip hop was like crisscross or some shit. Um, no knock on
The
the
mainstream.
yeah,
Yeah.
like super mainstream when I was abroad, or like, you know, coming in. I remember the day I heard Pac for the first time, or Tribe Called Quest. Like, mind was blown.
Yeah.
But living abroad, like, I'm listening to Poe and to Metallica, and, you know, like, to fucking Debbie Gibson or whoever it is, like super pop music, like Michael Bolton. Like, I love that shit. I
Yeah.
love like 80s and 90s adult alternative music, you know. But then again, I also love hip hop, and it was just a matter of, you know, living abroad, coming to Atlanta, living in Tennessee, loving country music. It kind of forced me to kind of have this well-rounded like interest in all kinds of different cultures and all kinds of different genres.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it happened. Like, it was just cultivated over just like bouncing around, and also keeping a very wide group of like friends around me from all different walks of life. I think that was also a huge component to like my growth and my interests overall.
And so all of that happens in your, like saying, in your formative years, and then you have the list, and then you have this thing called Broken Bougie.
Mm-hmm.
When Broken Bougie first popped off, like I was going to school at Albany State, so I would hear about this party, and this is before beer and tacos.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the first thing that was going on. Did you realize like what you guys were actually doing? Like at the time, was it you and Ian that were doing?
So it's like, so there's layers to this, right?
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that I was actually in the fashion industry before I was in music. I never thought I would be in music. I never thought I would be
Big Boy's wife, right?
Yeah, so even
Okay.
before that was Bow Wow's mom. She had a boutique in Atlantic Station called Taste. When I left Tennessee and came back to Atlanta, I think I read somewhere. I was really into fashion, but didn't know anything about the fields in fashion or anything. So I remember my sister taking out a clipping of Tamika Foster, who was a stylist, and she was like, "Oh, like if you like fashion, you can be a stylist. Like that's a field you can go into." So I started learning about personal shopping and styling, and started working as a stylist in town.
Okay.
Which is so like broad right now.
Yeah.
But in doing so, I found a program in Atlanta in a private community college that had a fashion merchandising class. I was like, okay, well, if I want to legitimize this, like, let me go get a degree in it. And I enrolled myself, and in the process, like, went and applied at Bow Wow's mom's boutique as a head stylist.
Okay.
But then I walked as a stylist, and I was hustling on the side as a stylist. I walked into Big Boy's wife's boutique one day when they had just opened, and no one knew about them. So I remember I wrote out a proposal. I was like, hire me as your creative director. I promise you in 3 months, I'll get you here. You know, it was like a whole shtick of like, just like, let me do this. And they took me up on it. And in the process, like, I started meeting a lot of people in the music industry, like, you know, styling folks, doing personal shopping for like Usher and like different Atlanta folks as they came into the store.
How old are you at this time?
What was this, like 22, 23? Yeah. And I met Ian through Caleb.
Okay.
You know Caleb from Sloppy Seconds. Caleb and his ex-wife used to come into the store and shop because, you know, it was right across from Thumbs Up Diner. So everybody used to come over.
Yeah.
So we met, and Caleb and I are a lot alike. We have, you know, a lot of similar interests. Like, we're in this like all world, but we grew up in hip hop. Like, he's from Alabama, like hella country upbringing, like, you know, but then he's like this hip hop kid. So I met Caleb, who introduced me to Ree and Ian, who were his partners in Sloppy Seconds. And I was already doing the list. Like, I had my own little like weird scene, you know, of kids. They had their own thing over there. And I think, like, you know, there was a shift that was happening between them as partners. And Ian like came on board and I told him like, I wanted to throw another party. Like, can you connect me with Yusuf at the Royal? And that's how it happened. It was my party, but Ian was definitely instrumental in helping me like identify DJs that I should have. he was definitely instrumental with like linking me up with Frey Wall, who did like a lot of like the art and stuff like that. Like, even though it was my party, I always look at Ian as someone that was definitely like instrumental in the cultivation of what Broken Bougie is. And I also depended a lot on him. Sorry, this is super long winded because
Nah,
it's
this is
so
good, man.
included.
And yo, if anyone has any questions, make sure you drop them, put them in the question section, and we're gonna get to them.
But yeah, like, I mean, even, you know, back in those days, I'd take like 2-3 months off and go back home to the Middle East because I was homesick, and Ian would hold down the fort, you know. So even though it was my party, it felt like it was also Ian's, and I think he also felt the sense of ownership, but it was never on paper. Like, it was Fadia, Kader, and Ian's partnership. But, you know, yeah, I guess it can be said that it was like our thing.
That's, man. So one, I think that I love the way that you explain that. I wasn't expecting you to go into in that depth, into that much depth into it, but you know, the way that I think the way that you talk about these relationships with people that you've had, and people you could easily be like, yeah, you know, it was the kid, and you know, I just had it clicking out here. And the fact that you're able to that you just detailed everyone that had an influence in this great experience and timestamp, honestly, in Atlanta culture. Like, I think that says a lot about your character, and it also talks a lot about like how important integrity is in this business, and I would say just in life in general. And so, with you going through, you know, again, this party scene in Atlanta, being in the music industry, kind of dabbling in the circle, and then again, being a woman of color, that's not like you weren't in an industry that was you know, catered to you. How was that experience just for you, like working through being a woman of color in that space?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Blair. Like, I knew at that point, like, remember, I had just put myself through school. I had this amazing opportunity in the fashion industry. You know, I somehow, like, I met Proton at the time. I started managing this hip hop duo in Atlanta named Proton. They were extremely instrumental in my story as well. But the reason why I even started managing them is I met them through Ree, who was Ian and Caleb's partner, right? And I really liked their music, but I didn't understand why they weren't popping in Atlanta. And just because, like, I guess you can call me sadistic, and I like a challenge. So I was like, oh, you want a manager? Sure, I'll be a manager. Not knowing anything about the music industry. Nothing. I don't know shit about music. I don't know how to get these kids. Like, they're not even kids. They were way older than me. So, like, they trusted this 22, 23-year-old to take them on as a manager. But I never thought I would be in the music industry. I had a path. I mean, I went into school debt, student loans to be in the fashion industry, and my life just pivoted. You know, like, I started Broken Bougie as a fashion, like, party initially, but it turned into this whole, like, music industry scene, creative scene thing, you know? So, you know, I didn't understand what being in the music industry really was, I would say, until I moved to New York.
And that's when you took the complex job, right?
Yeah, that's when I took the complex job. I mean, I obviously was in the business of music, working with artists and doing all these showcases,
A3C,
all the A3C and all that, but I wasn't, like, in the industry. Like, people knew me as, like, that creative girl that is, like, setting trends or setting blueprints in the city, you know? So I think, and the problem for me is that I never interned anywhere. I never had a mentor. Nobody really, like, took me under their wing and tried to explain this shit. So I had to, like, learn it on my own, you know? Like, when Proton needed to go on tour, or Bosco, like, I was like, okay, I got to hook up on buddy passes. We need to go to Europe. I need to get her popping in London or Paris or Austria. Cool. I have $500 and a suitcase of granola bars and ramen for us to eat on once in a month, you know, and we're just going to go to Europe and do, like, a 20-city, like, tour, or it was 8 cities, sorry, not 20 cities for sure, 8-city tour in, like, 3 to 4 weeks, and thug it out and make $100 a show. But that's an experience. You know? So, like, I think back and I wish I had a mentor or an internship to, like, teach me all this stuff. But I'm also, like, grateful for the opportunity that I created for myself, you know?
And one could also say too that, I mean, that just that clip of, oh, the suitcase with the ramen and the granola bars and the
Oh,
$500,
it's
like,
real.
I mean, had you had a hand to kind of guide you through this, perhaps like you wouldn't figure things out the way that you did. Like, I mean, I think about us, you know, with Honor Roll. I mean, we had, as I know that you're aware, Atlanta can be a place sometimes where people say that they're willing to help, but then they're not really willing to. But I also think that's life in general. I don't think that that's specific to Atlanta. And
It's,
so,
you
like,
know what the thing is about that, Blair? It's not that people aren't willing to help. The issue with Atlanta, and that's why it's unfortunate that a young music exec like myself has to leave to become a music exec in these situations, is that it's the same 5 people eating off the same check.
yeah.
A lot of times, and that's hard, you know, like when you're trying to make something of yourself and really like create something in the city, like it's hard when you have gatekeepers that are blocking the checks from getting to like a new generation of folks trying to hustle, you know.
I mean, you just opened up a door that I wasn't, you know, but
But hey,
let's explore.
we don't have you
Nah.
sure?
Nah, because so I'm not sure if you heard about this, but this was maybe about 2 months ago. There was this uh, Atlanta fashion streetwear meetup that happened at this spot called Be Social, and pretty much like everyone who's been in the fashion industry with in Atlanta over the last 10 years were here, and it was like this round table having the conversation around exactly what it was that you were talking about. And there is this reality of, like you said, like these gatekeepers or like these people who occupy these spaces that have the frame of mind that in order for me to succeed, you have to lose. And which I think is complete trash. You know, for us, I mean, we've done a pretty good job at working through those barriers. But it's definitely not something easy at all, right? So is that the reason why you left Atlanta? Was it a lack of opportunities? Was it people who were in position where there could have been opportunities, but they just weren't giving them?
So fuck yeah, like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you know, there came a point, I'll never forget this. I was you know, my story goes back and forth a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of pockets in my life, especially that got me to this point. But there was a time when the first time I moved to New York was in 2007, because I was hitting a quarter life crisis. I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to be in Atlanta. And it was before Housewives of Atlanta was a thing, but I was in that circle. Like I was literally in that, like, you
You was
know,
gonna be on season 1?
you know, I got called to be on season 1 of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.
You wasn't with it.
Definitely not. Can you imagine me on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And I actually have like
I don't see someone throwing a drink on you and it's cut. I don't see that. Nah.
No, I would be the one flipping tables. Like I have anger issues like that I have to deal with that people don't really know about me. Like I'm very Middle Eastern. Like I'm really calm and hospitable and like fun. But it's like it takes 2 seconds and then all of a sudden I'm like crazy flipping tables. Like it's a whole nother Fadia that people don't get to see, and that's a good thing. Let's keep it there.
Facts.
But no, you know, at that time I just, there was no opportunity. Like I moved to New York the first time, but Broken Bougie was super popping. It was when I had just first started Perfect Attendance, the music showcase. So I was flying back and forth on the weekends to do my parties when I had the AirTran X Fair pass. If you guys remember that.
Shout out to AirTran.
Exactly. Shout out to AirTran. But and then I remember I was sitting with Scooter. Scooter hit me up one day, Scooter Braun. And this is before like Justin Bieber Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
When he had just found Asher Roth. He was like, hey, like it's Scooter, let's hang out. I was like, yo, I'm in New York today. He was like, well, me and Steve Rifkin from Loud are in Atlanta. Like he really wants, I want you to meet him. I have some really cool things happening. So I hop on my companion pass the next day and go down there. And I was still doing Broken Bougie, and I'll never forget, like, Steve just looks at me, and he was like, tell me about this broke party you're doing. And I'm like...
Oh, you fronted.
I was like...
Like, it's like, what is this little thing? Like, yeah, you and your little friends.
You know, he called it the broke party, you know? And I explained it to him. He was like, you know, I get it. Like, I can respect like what you're trying to build and your loyalty to your city and stuff like that. He was like, but you just want to be broke for the rest of your life? And I was like, whoa, like, and I'm only like 24 at this point. Like,
Yeah.
my mind is blown, right? So that really stuck with me when he said that. He was like, you manifest what you say. Like, the power of the tongue is real. Like, if you're calling yourself broke and bougie all day long, that's what you're going to be. He's like, do you want to be that? And like, I was really defensive and you know, arrogant and young, like not trying to hear him. And I remember going after the studio with Scooter to R. Thomas, and he was like, Fadia, I found this kid. His name is, you know, Justin, and I'm flying him out this weekend. Like, let's just do this. Let's be partners. Like, come be a manager on my schoolboy production stuff, you know. And I remember telling the guys at Proton, like, hey, there's this kid I think I want to help manage. His name is Justin Bieber.
You helped manage Justin Bieber and his...
No, that's Scooter was like, hey, come be part of my thing, you know. And I have this kid, his name is Asher Roth, and I have Justin Bieber. And I told the guys, and they're like, what do we look like being managed by someone that manages a 10-year-old or however old he was? So I passed on that opportunity.
How often do you think about that? Like, yo, I passed on.
I think about it from a place where it's like lesson learned. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in everything is mektub. Mektub means written in Arabic. Like, everything that's for me is for me and meant to be. Like, that moment would have led me somewhere completely different. You know, maybe I would have never met my husband. Maybe it's just so many layers. So when I get into a place where shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know, like I posted the story about our Drake show back in the day. Like,
I saw that.
Yeah, like Drake wanted to do the remix of Good Guys for Proton, and Proton said no, you know? Like, there are a lot of moments in my life where I was like this close to like the brink of something, but it didn't happen. But that's okay, because that's not what was meant for me. And that's how I think like I'm able to maneuver in the industry, is because like I don't get caught up in, damn, I missed an opportunity. I could have been a fucking millionaire managing so-and-so or doing this or that. No, that's not for me. And it might be the long road, but it's the best road for me at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, you know, that, like, one of the main things that one of the ethos of Honor Roll is like excellence of process, or excuse me, excellence is a process. And, you know, that what you just said pretty much just summed all of that up. You know, not too many people could say that they passed up on something as huge as Justin Bieber, you know, and not just that, but then like,
but like, keep in mind, like, I didn't know it was Justin. Like,
right, no one knows that.
Justin, like, Scooter didn't even know it was Justin. It was just like, hey, come meet this kid. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be partners with anyone. And I also had this chip on my shoulder. Like, everyone was trying to like get off of the culture, and I was the person that was trying to protect this culture in Atlanta. So that was another thing. Like, there was a time when I was supposed to start a label with Coach K. You know, before I left to go to New York, sorry, not to cut you off, but before I left the second time to go to New York, it's literally because like no one was giving me a job in Atlanta, because everyone was like, oh, but you're so popping in the city. Like, you don't need anything from us. And I'm like, bro, I'm broke. Like, I'm about to get evicted. Like, 2 weeks before I moved to New York, I got a job at PR1 Imports. And I remember I used to come home every night crying. I remember Brad.
Yeah.
I'd come home every night crying to him, and I'd be like, bro, like, what am I doing? I'm more than just working like as a retail assistant person. Like, no knock on it, but like, I knew I had more in me. Like, I didn't want to throw parties. I wanted an opportunity, someone to mentor me and get me in the door. But no one was really opening up a door for me. And not that I'm not the one to ask people to open doors, but I'm like, just let me work. Like, I'm not asking you to give me anything. I just want a job.
An opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that pretty much sums up, you know, excellence being a process. I mean, because like there's all these things that you learn throughout your journey that they transfer into all these other situations that you find yourself in. And I mean, it again, like this goes back to like just your character, you know, and how that gets developed over time. I mean, all like the trophies and the accolades are cool and it's dope, but like you can't can't fake character. You can't fake integrity. You know, you can't speed past these lessons. You know, and I didn't know some of this stuff. I had like this is a joy just for me to even be able to hear.
I mean, I saved the best for you. I really don't talk about this stuff that much, but like we go back and it's home team and it's Atlanta. So like I keep it all the way. I drop the gems in here that people don't know about.
And yeah, I appreciate it, man. And we'll have this interview up so people can come back and take a look at this. You know, you posted something on your IG story. This was maybe like a week ago or a couple days ago. About it was super encrypted, and it sounded as if like you were saying you were coming back somewhere. No, am I bugging?
Wait, I don't know. I post a lot on Instagram, so
You said something about all roads eventually lead back to ... or it was a blank space. No.
Yeah.
So you know where my question is coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't know. Ask me the question and I'll see. Because it's always so interesting, like, because I do speak in a weird way on Instagram that I like. Sometimes I feel like it's me and only Instagram. Like no one pays attention, and it's like I speak.
No, people pay
myself.
attention.
I see. But ask me the question. Let's see how far off you are. Or
there's this relationship that you have with Atlanta that I mean, it's just evident it's there, right? I mean, and you went to New York, you did your thing. You're in LA. I mean, again, Complex, Twitter, Def Jam, Instagram. You know, I mean, you guys broke the internet with Teddy and them. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you coming back to Atlanta at any point, or is there any there's the reality of like these gatekeepers that you talked about, right? And not giving opportunities. And Atlanta is still a budding place for culture.
Atlanta is the culture center. It's just the biggest problem with Atlanta is that there is no media outlet covering it in real time in the backyard of the city and what's happening in the city. Everyone in the city always has to flee to New York for promo runs or come to LA to make executive like boss decisions. And that's unfortunate. Like, it's annoying. Now, do I wish I dream of the day of moving back to Atlanta. Like, that's my dream. Before my husband and I moved out to LA, like, I always looked at New York. I hated New York. That's why I left New York the first time in 2007. Like,
straight on the winters.
I hated New York. Like, I literally left my apartment and never went back to it and let my friend move in and just, like, left everything there. That's how much I hated New York in 2007. But I knew in 2012 when I hit a glass ceiling in Atlanta. I didn't have any opportunities. I didn't want to throw Broken Bougie anymore. I gave it to 2-9 and them, you know. I realized, like, for me, I never gave New York
Wait, that's where beer and tacos came out? That's how that happened?
No. Beer
okay.
and tacos, like, Meshack and them were super inspired by
from
all
Vinny
the things that I was doing. Yeah.
Okay.
So Meshack and them were super inspired what I was doing. And they, you know, a lot of people, like, it's Broken Bougie was a blueprint. Sloppy Seconds was a blueprint. A lot of people created their own lifestyle scene out of that. Like, so, but, in 2012, like, I told myself, like, you have to go to New York. Like, you have no option. Like, you have to go to New York if you really want to advance your career in this weird space that you're in that is digital marketing and music and lifestyle and culture. So I promised myself that I was going to New York as an extended business trip, and I was always going to come back home to Atlanta. Every year, it was like, I'm moving back to Atlanta. Even Mario, when he moved to New York, you know, when we were...
Is he from Atlanta?
He's from Tennessee, but he came up in Motion Family in Atlanta. He was living in Atlanta.
Okay, got you.
So when I was in New York and he moved up there, like, it was honestly under the pretense that I was like, hey, you're moving up here, but we're moving back to Atlanta. But my career just kept going, you know, further and further away. And I think it's for a reason. And the last 2 years I was in New York, like, it was really hard. I hated New York. I didn't want to be there anymore. And I wanted to go back home. And there was a point when I was at Twitter, I got approved to move to Atlanta and, like, work in the office at Twitter, like, music. And that was going to be the biggest, like, before there was a Spotify there and Troy Carter brought that team there, like, Twitter music was going to be Atlanta's first social platform that came in, right? And then 2 weeks later, my manager, you know, left the company, and
That was
that
that.
they were like, sorry, you can't move to Atlanta. So that's how I transitioned to Instagram. But when I went to Instagram, I realized like, I'm not going to go back to Atlanta with Instagram, but I need to get the fuck out of New York. So how am
Yeah.
I going to do this? The only option is
Go
LA.
to LA. What would make you come back? Like,
Um,
could you see yourself starting, like developing something and allowing it to be home base? Are you like open into partnering with people to help develop something here in the city that eventually has legs enough to where, you know, you and, you know, Mario can come back?
yeah, I think, you know, when you're in a marriage and a relationship, now you have two people to think about. Like, respectively, he has his own career.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think both of our careers just land better in LA at this present time, you know.
Fair.
But to answer your question, what would bring me back? I don't know. Like, LA is really fucking dope, bro.
It is.
Like,
It is.
I'm
That's
really,
originally where I'm from, and so like
yeah,
I go back home at least
man.
once or twice a year.
And LA has shifted. Like the vibe
Yeah.
in LA, like I mean, I had crazy opportunities offered to me in LA. Like before Beats was like, you know, acquired by Apple, like I was offered a position at Beats and I said no just because the position was in LA. You
Yeah.
know, this is when I was at Complex at the time before even Def Jam. And but I think there's been a grand exodus of a lot of young creatives that have grown up, and the quality of life in New York has just shifted, and even the quality of life in Atlanta, the opportunities have shifted. So a
Yeah.
lot of friends from Atlanta and New York have moved out to LA, and that's helped me build the kind of community that I can only dream of. You know,
Yeah.
like I have, you know, I'm a firm believer that you can have everything you want in this life, but it might not be at the same time. But this is the closest that it's come to at the same time living out in LA, just because I have my dream job, I have my relationship, I have my career, but I also have my community with me. And it's
Yeah.
not home. My family is in here. You know, my closest friends in Atlanta aren't here, but what's the sacrifice? You
Yeah.
know?
Man. Um. Last question. Two more questions that I want to. Well, there's actually like 10, but I'll limit it down to
Go
two.
for it. We
And
got
then,
time.
okay, cool. Um, protect your magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, branding. You know, again, this goes back to this whole community conversation and you developing strong communities. What was protect your magic? Is that still a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. What is there any plans of that coming back around, or is there another iteration of that?
Yeah. I think if you've known me long enough, or if you've watched the way I move, the way I do things is very intuitive, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very in the moment, and it's passion driven.
Yeah.
So at the time when Protect Your Magic came around, it was literally me just being like drained. You know, like I was working at Complex. Like the role that I had at Complex now has like 12 people in a department, you
Yeah.
know, which is crazy to think like one person was doing what 12 people do now, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it was like 2 years. It was my first corporate job, keep in mind. And I was there 2 years and I just felt drained. Like, I didn't feel like people were trusting what I like. There will be times where I'll be like, yo, there's this kid in Atlanta. His name is Future. We need to book him for this show, Sono show. Trust me. Give me $5,000. I know you gave me $2,000 for him, but I need $5,000
Yeah.
because he's that guy. You don't know it yet, but trust me.
And
And
we're talking about 5,000 for Future. I mean, granted, this is before Future is Future, but
yes,
nonetheless.
yes, that's when Orlando McGee was managing him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like, I just felt like, I just wasn't happy in my position. I felt drained. I felt like I was being like completely just like taken advantage of with my contacts. Like my magic was depleting. And I remember I was working so much Blair that I actually like managed to stack up almost 6 weeks of PTO time.
Wow.
Like not 14 days, the average, like 6 weeks, because I would be working like Saturday, Sunday, all day,
Yeah.
every day type of thing, like traveling, you know? So I took those 6 weeks off at one time, took a sabbatical, split up a trip between Mexico City by myself, and then I took myself to India on some eat, pray, love shit by myself. Um, and then I just kept telling myself, like, you're magic. You know you're magic. Why are you not protecting your magic? Like, why are you? I was in a bad relationship, like a really toxic relationship. I loved what I did at work, but I didn't love that I didn't have advocacy or like leadership that believed in what I was doing and my trend forecasting skills. I felt like I was just like drugged to the ground. So I came back and I was like, fuck the world. I'm protecting my magic and I'm just going to say no. Like, I'm going to look for another job. I'm going to get out of this toxic relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to take care of myself. Self-care is important. And I'm just going to say no to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly what I did. And a month after coming back from that India trip, I left Complex. Everybody told me I was crazy. I went to Def Jam. Everybody told me I was crazy to go there, you know, and Protect Your Magic just became a thing where I was writing it on like Post-its and putting it around the city in New York. And then, you know, just my foresight from Broken Bougie days when I used to look like a lot of people don't know the reason why bougie is spelled that way, Boujee. Like, I purposely did that. Like, I misspelled it on purpose because at the time on social media, there were no hashtags. There wasn't a way to repost. So the only way I could search to see if somebody posted about being at the party
is to make sure that it was specific.
Yeah.
Every name.
So then I started looking up Protect Your Magic on Instagram and Twitter. And then I started seeing people reposting the Post-its, but it didn't have an account. But I didn't want to make the same mistake that I had made, you know, with Broken Bougie or Come Up Kids. Like, I was broke.
Come Up Kids Radio.
Come Up Kids Radio. And ComeUpKids.com.
Yeah,
you know,
there's
like,
so much for us to talk about, man.
Yeah, like there might have to be a part 2 to this, but like ComeUpKids.com was so ahead of its fucking time.
This is before podcasting. This is before like this is all of that.
All of that, okay? It was so ahead of its time that I lost the website, Blair, because I didn't have $150 for the hosting.
Sheesh.
Like, someone snatched the website and everything came tumbling down. So that's how I lost the website at that time. Anyway, yeah, so I was like, I'm not going to make the same Broken Bougie and Come Up Kids mistake and not be about my business. So I went and immediately trademarked Protect Your Magic. I was like, if this ain't it, like, I have to protect my trademark, you know, my intellectual property. I trademarked it for like thousands of like categories, everything from candles to hand sanitizers to like books and everything. And then I started making an Instagram account and I started walking around the city with a fucking spray can and a stencil I cut out. And I just felt the need to spread those 3 words. Like, I feel like they saved my life. And I needed to remind other people to protect their magic as well. And I just went around the city like literally in the dead of the night. Mario would be like, "You are crazy. Like, why are you out in 3 o'clock in the morning?"
Yo, but you know what though? Like, there were so many people that bit off of that Protect Your Magic.
Protect your energy or whatever, or your heart.
And I was see in Atlanta, I would see it and it's just like, yo, like that's the homies. Like, what you doing?
Yeah. No, it was so crazy because like that Protect Your Heart stuff, like, he totally bit the shit out of my stuff. But fun fact, you know, I even called him and I tried to like reason with him, be like, yo, that's really trash. Like, you know, that's not, and he was like, this is what he said to me. And it, like, when I said at the beginning, like, angry Fadia is real Fadia, he was like, well, you're a Def Jam. Like, you got a corporate job. What do you know about street art and culture and street like culture and graffiti? And I was like, word. So
Noted.
I was like, okay. So in the middle of the night, I went and I made a stencil that said neck. And I went all over the city of New York City because, like, when you're a tagger, like, now I can put the tagline that I'm a tagger in my life because I know that culture. I did it.
Yeah.
There's a method to the madness on where you tag. Like, it kind of becomes like dropping a hint and a mask around the city. So I took that neck stencil and went over every single fucking tag he ever tagged in his life with
And
protect
put
your
neck.
neck. I was like, oh, if you're gonna do it, and I made a whole like protect your neck Instagram page and posted every single one, and people were going crazy in New York,
Jeez.
and nobody knew it was me. He didn't know it was me at the time. I'm sure he knows now.
Well, if he doesn't now, he does.
Yeah, like no, I posted about it a couple years ago, but who knows if he got it. But you know, it was just so funny because it's like, oh, you don't know, you want to tell me I don't know about culture? Like, fuck you. Say you're right. Word to Wu-Tang is protect your fucking neck.
Yeah.
Like, and here you go. You know.
Yeah. Man.
So that was me. But then I just, you know, I started. Everything is in the moment. I Protect Your Magic turned into a merch line. I still want to bring it back. I've been thinking about bringing it back. It's just also a time thing. Like, I'm one person. I also went to culinary school. A lot of people don't know that. Like, I became a chef.
Oh, I know.
Last 2 years.
I know. And I also know that before you went to culinary school, I mean, you got busy in the kitchen.
Yes, sir.
You got super busy in the kitchen. And yeah, so now I know about the smoke.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd love to bring Protect Your Magic back. I don't know how or what. I mean, I have Protect Your Magic. I have Cooking with Kader, which is like the cooking stuff. There's Saint Frida, which I did with Frida Kahlo's estate initially. Like the first Frida Kahlo pin ever. Like I did that, you know, and it was a monthly like Frida Kahlo pin. But it's just it's a lot. It's demanding.
There's a infrastructure that would need to be put together that would allow for these things to actually live.
Yeah, and I mean, word to my friend Vanessa, her handle is Bad with Feels, Vanessa Gonzalez. She started a company for young executives or creatives to help them, like it's like an admin company. So for a minute, like last year, she was helping like ship a lot of things. But, you know, it requires like me rebuilding the website, me like having to really sit there with like the designer and go through SWOTs. Like, I just don't have the time. Like, I have a husband at home. I have a full-time career that never shuts off. So I think, you know, everything is meant to be, again, Maktub. When it's Maktub for me to jump back into those things, I think they're there, they're timeless, and they'll be there.
That's what's up, man. All right. So, like, we got, like, 8 minutes. If you're down, like, I definitely want to, you know, maybe in the next couple of weeks, like, do a part 2. Because, I mean, like, there's stuff about Come Up Kids Radio. There's stuff we even talk, like, this has just been history. We haven't even talked about, like, even the practical business steps to be able to get to the place that you're at. That I think that would be of so much value for people to be able to hear. But I do want to at least try to grab 1 or 2 questions.
I mean, I'm down to like keep talking if you want over the hour or no.
Oh, no. Like, I mean,
I think we'll have to log off and then log back on.
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and log out now, and then we'll start it back over. So we're going to go ahead and end it now.
Everybody come back. All 58 of y'all come right back.
Come back. All right.